let's start breaking down some of these college football playoff games that we're going to see here this weekend, starting with Texas and Clemson. We had Sark on the program last week and asked him about playing Arch Moore and the significance of his role that could be expanded more. He really wasn't going to countenance that question very much, but what do you think? I mean, when the SEC championship's on the line and the game's in overtime and Texas gets the ball first, the quarterback who took the first snap of overtime was Arch Manning. And I saw that, and I'm like, okay, so if they're confident enough to pop him out for one of the most important snaps of the season, why aren't we going to maybe see that a little bit more? Certainly if Ewers is a shade slower due to wear and tear. Your thoughts on that subject matter, Bruce Feldman?
I think it's a hard thing to do where you're kind of messing with the psyche of your starting quarterback and the guy who's supposed to be a leader of your team in this, at this point of it, because it's different than having, okay, we have a package for Arch to go in, as opposed to, I think you can't play in both lanes. I just think it kind of undermines Ewers to some degree because, look, he played really well against Michigan on the road.
Right.
And they were rolling, and then he got banged up. He got hurt. He missed a couple games. Arch did some really good things. And then Ewers came back, and he hasn't been as sharp, right? And as you said, but I think Sark has basically said he is our guy. He said it, and you can say, okay, well, he's given Arch some opportunities here in big moments. Right. I think that's different than saying, hey, it's we're going to play it as we see it.
But I mean, if you're saying in a draft conversation that Ewers and his family and his entourage, his circle, might be looking at his draft status right now, and if it's not improved, he might stick in college football and knows Texas isn't in the spot for him. If he's already thinking portal, why wouldn't Sark say, let's get Arch a little bit more action right now? Certainly, since we're now in rubber meets the road situation where, yeah, psyches are important and obviously loyalty is another thing, but you gotta beat Clemson and then move on into the next round when somebody who's fresh as a daisy is taking on your team. You got to sit here and think about, there's no sacred cows a little bit, right?
Yeah, but I don't think necessarily Ewers is thinking, I'm going in the portal. Okay. I think Ewers is thinking, I'm going to play really well. I'll get the ball to my really talented skill guys, and I'm going to lead this team to a national title. And then whatever happens, happens. Whether I end up, people say I'm going to be a first-round pick or not, we'll evaluate it then. Because I think Quinn Ewers has been coached enough, and I'm not just talking about Sark, but has had enough people around him to know if I play really well and if I'm at my best, let me take my chances at that. I don't think if Sark really felt like that, I think he would have ripped the Band-Aid off a long time ago. Sark is around them all the time. I mean, to me, this isn't about who's the most dynamic dual threat quarterback. It's about who gives us the best chance to win. And, you watch the Texas A&M game that they had late in the year. It was on the road at Kyle Field. And Ewers did some really good things early in the game, and then he struggled later in the game. There were a couple of red zone turnovers. But it wasn't like he came out of that and was like, okay, the job is open. I just think he has figured out this is the best way to work this for now. I mean, if you ask people who they think is the more talented quarterback, that might be a different question than who's the one who's right now the most ready to lead them to a national title. Now, look, if something happened where Ewers really struggled and Clemson got after him, and it was because once Sark made that move in the Georgia game, the first Georgia game, they were it was like an onslaught of that Texas offense, and Arch came in, gave him a little spark, but then all of a sudden it was like, Georgia basically reasserted itself. And then Ewers played a little better in the second half. It wasn't, it's opened the question to what we're talking about right now, for sure. But I have to believe Sark thinks the guy who gives us the best chance to win the national title. And it's not like, to me, there's like 4 or 5 teams that have a true chance to win the national title in this playoff field. And Texas is certainly one of them. I'm not saying they can't do it with Arch, but they can certainly do it with Ewers. Like, they were not far off last year. It's just he's probably got to play, a little cleaner than he has. But you could say the same about every quarterback. The only guy I would say I would have a lot more confidence in who's in this tournament is Dylan Gabriel. Now, he's not won a national title either, but I just think you can say the same about almost every quarterback here. And I think that there's probably even more questions at this stage of the game with Arch, where could you roll with him and just say, hey, he's going to be the guy going forward? It just doesn't line up with a lot of the things Sark has done and said so far.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku Channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.